Oh, hi guys. It's Vampire Mike from Sega CD Universe, and I wanted to do a little review impressions video on a documentary I just saw a few moments ago, Roomful of Spoons. Roomful of Spoons is a documentary based off the film The Room. The film The Room was a beautiful creation by none other than Tommy Wiseau. He's here looking over us like baby Jesus. To Mike, may all your dreams come true. Love, Tommy. So, I'm a big fan of Tommy. I've seen him in other films. The House That Drips Blood on Alex, Samurai Cop 2. I'm looking forward to the movie Friends with him and Greg Sestero, which looks interesting. He was on Tim and Eric at one point. And I've even checked out his TV series, The Neighbors. So this review is not meant by any means to be a knock at Tommy at all. I know he's a little displeased with this documentary, but I'll get back to that in a moment. I would like to give a big thank you and shout out to Rick Harper from Rockhaven Pictures. He was very gracious enough to send me a screener of this documentary for Roomful of Spoons. As I said, I just watched it a few moments ago. It seemed to be in its final form, minus a little sound being a little louder and quieter in portions, but he said they were still working on that. So thank you very much, Rick. He had said one of his producers had mentioned my YouTube channel and that I was a fan of The Room. They got that right. So they decided to shoot me over a copy to review, and I'm so appreciative because I have a small channel. I just sit here and talk to people like, you know, like they're friends on my couch just BSing with me, and that's it. So I just am very humbled by receiving, you know, something so cool from my small little niche YouTube channel. I'm going to kind of flip-flop back and forth a little bit between Tommy, his movie The Room, and Roomful of Spoons, which is really what I want to focus on, but forgive me if I do jump around a bit. So The Room, to start with The Room briefly, it's a cult classic at this point. Tommy Wiseau has put in millions of dollars of his own money. He himself has become sort of an enigma in terms of where he's from originally, because he says he's from New Orleans, but he doesn't sound like he's from New Orleans. He's you know, he made this project, The Room, that he sort of put himself into, and I think told a story about his life. Very strange directing, very strange acting, and dialogue especially. Lots of questionable choices in terms of his film, but he was originally, I believe, going for a kind of dark love story, maybe about betrayal, and it turned into such a weird film that he now just runs with what other people say, which is that it's like a dark comedy, like a black comedy. I don't believe it was initially intended to be that, but why would you not ride that if that's where it's going, and people are now making this a hugely popular film over the past few years on that assumption. So Tommy's been pretty good at I think riding that and hopefully being lighthearted and just kind of smirking along with the reception this film's received. There also on a side note is a Flash game based off the movie The Room, which is excellent. It throws in some really great retro RPG elements. It takes the music from the movie The Room, all the actors and stuff, and really kind of fleshes out some of that stuff too from a fan point of view. So check that out as well. The other thing I want to mention is Tommy initially seemed very happy with this project, according to Rick. Tommy seemed like he wanted a documentary about The Room. Roomful of Spoons was a go, and you know, he was on board to, I guess, be in the background, so to speak, in terms of being happy for the project. He now seems very angry by this project, and I think I can explain why, at least from watching the film. But he's put up YouTube videos on his channel, on his official Tommy Wiseau channel, saying that shame on you, and you know, why are you like riding my coattails type of thing. I think the reason for that is because sometimes when a documentary or something is pulling back the exterior and focusing more in on Tommy as a person, first off, it gets private. You're giving away some of this man's private life, but also I think people will poke fun, and I guess you can only laugh so much with your film, but when it starts getting personal, maybe at that point he gets upset. So initially he was for this documentary, Roomful of Spoons. He doesn't seem to be anymore. Yeah, the best way for me to kind of describe The Room, it sort of reminds me in a way of Troll 2. Not in terms of the plot or the dialogue or anything like that, but take someone like Tommy, who is not from America, and then someone like the directors and the creators of Troll 2, who were from Italy. You're taking English as like a second or third language at this point, and you're throwing it into a meat grinder and trying to spit out a film with your interpretation of English, though it's not your first language. So the wording is weird, the inflections are weird, the plot is strange in areas, it divulges some things that don't go anywhere. That's kind of The Room, and Troll 2 in a sense, but Troll 2 is a little more streamlined in a nutshell. Again, you got to see the movie. If you want to check out my little impressions video on it as well afterwards, I would appreciate that. So, Roomful of Spoons comes in at about 2 hours almost. It focuses primarily on the cast and the production of The Room. So all these people, the guy who played Denny, excuse me for not remembering their actual names, but I think it's like Philip Haldeman, the guy who plays Denny, the guy who plays Chris R., Juliette Daniels, who plays Lisa, Mike, who is the guy eating the chocolate, making out with the woman in the apartment. They're all interviewed, as well as people in the background who did, the filming and the directing and little parts of other things. So it's really cool to watch this behind the scenes documentary on The Room that you most likely would have never gotten had this movie not blown up, had The Room not blown up the way it has and become such a cult classic over the past, I don't know, however many years. The other thing I wanted to say about the interviews with the cast is they were all so positive. These people could have did this movie and been like, oh my god, I did this movie, this was horrible, it was a horrible experience. This guy was barking orders at us the whole time and blah blah blah, and it's just weird. But instead, they take it all with a grain of salt. They seem, or I don't know if the grain of salt is the right terminology, but they take it all in stride, is what I should say. And they seem happy that they did it, happy that they're still getting some kind of notoriety by it. Even the guy who did the soundtrack had said that his name was on this billboard for years in California, because insanely, the movie cost $6 million of what I would say is probably mostly Tommy Wiseau's own money, but he also put up a billboard in California for years, I think 3 or 4 years, correct me if I'm wrong on that amount of time, advertising The Room with his face and like the name of, the people who starred in it or whatever, and the sound composer was saying his name was up, and he was like famous for all these years with his name up on the billboard, and it was a positive experience because, they all now are well known from this cult classic and going along with it. So it was nice to see that these people took something positive out of it. They didn't get upset and get angry about it. Even Tommy, to an extent, they've all kind of went with it. So, as I said, the movie took about $6 million. I think it was $6 million to make. It's a weird movie. It's kind of sad that Tommy didn't want this documentary to come out. He's sort of like an enigma. He's a very clandestine type of guy. If you read Greg Sestero's book, which is another great companion piece along with this documentary, that delves a little bit more into Tommy on a personal, like, friendship type of level. Greg is the guy who played Mark. He became friends with Tommy. He also did a ton of work on The Room with Tommy. And they sort of had a falling out, I believe, at one point, but then got back together. Tommy seems sort of like a nice person deep down who sort of wants things his own way, though, and surrounded himself by people when he filmed The Room to sort of make friends. That's sort of what I got from Greg Sestero's book. And I think now Greg Sestero's book, The Disaster Artist, is becoming a movie with James Franco and his brother. I can't recall his name right now. And I guess Tommy just sees it as more exposure, where the document, it's more exposure for the movie The Room, for Tommy, and, it's by these A-list actors now, or very big actors. So he probably has more of a positive spin on Greg and his book and that movie coming out, where with this documentary, it does peel back some of the onion in terms of who Tommy is and where he's from, which I was glad to see, because I've been a big fan of Tommy, after seeing The Room. I've seen The House That Drips Blood on Alex, his IGN video game reviews. He was on Tim and Eric. He does his own TV show called The Neighbors, which is insane. Samurai Cop 2, I love. I'm a big fan of the Samurai Cop movies. I believe the third one just got semi-announced today on Facebook, so that's exciting. And I guess Tommy will find his way into it, hopefully, into the third film. So this documentary is great. It's very insightful. It's definitely a labor of love by Rick Harper and his crew over at Rockhaven Pictures. It really looks into the backgrounds of the actors in terms of, they'll tell a little bit about themselves, what they were doing at the time, what they felt about the film, and certain scenes or certain things that happened in the movie. And I think that's really great, because most of the stuff out there doesn't pinpoint that. This documentary does that very well. I wasn't bored or like watching it and going, all right, I get it, go on. I was really, affixed to my TV the whole almost 2 hours watching this documentary. If you are a big fan of The Room and you want a really great companion piece besides The Disaster Artist by Greg Sestero, this is hands down amazing. It just digs deep down into everything. I thought it was done very respectfully, and I thought it was sort of a nice tribute in a way. Even at the end of the documentary, I don't want to give away too much, but at the end of the documentary, it talks about where Tommy's from, interviews with his family. They go to where Tommy was from, they screen the room, they pinpoint this one thing that I don't think anyone noticed in The Room, the movie, that sort of gives away very slightly where Tommy is from. So it's very interesting in that regard. But at the end of the documentary, it's like a nice send-off to Tommy. And hopefully one day he embraces this documentary, because, as I said, it's a wonderful companion piece. If you like Troll 2 and you thought the Best Worst Movie documentary was good, this is in the same vein. And I think that just speaks volumes, because if you either hate The Room or you're a fan and you want to find out what the hell is going on, and you just get deeper and deeper into it, and this documentary really puts that out there for you. So I give this movie like a 9. I think this documentary is great. If you're a fan of The Room, if you went as far as reading Greg Sestero's book, or in my case, listening to the audiobook, you owe it to yourself to check out Rick Harper's Roomful of Spoons. Tommy, if you see this, please understand I'm a big fan of your work. Don't get mad at me, but maybe you can watch the documentary yourself and make amends with Rick, because it's always sad to see people not getting along all the time, but hey, it happens, I guess. So when it does come out, check out Roomful of Spoons if you are a Room fan. It is awesome, has some great insight and, background into the people, and some very specific background into where Tommy's from, his family, and his origins, and sheds a little more light on the guy. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you again, Rick, for the screener copy. It was amazing to get it. It's Vampire Mike from Sega CD Universe. Be good.